Welcome to my views and news. Two news stories from Oromia. Firstly, fighting resumed in the Oromia region on Monday. Oromo Liberation Army spokesperson a few hours ago through a social media post confirmed fighting on two fronts. Where did the fighting start? It happened after the two sides failed to reach an agreement in Tanzania. Details for you. Secondly, viewers, a European organization is playing a key role in the Oromia peace talks, which were held in Tanzania. First round was concluded around a week ago. Does US have any role in the talks? Because we know that Pretoria deal, the parties reached Pretoria deal because of significant US involvement. Is US involved in Oromia peace talks? I think that another organization is involved in Oromia peace talks. Second round could be held in coming days. Details for you about this organization, because when I was covering Libyan war, I remember the same organization played a mediatory role there, and that conflict was resolved through this organization. Details for you. Firstly, viewers, there has been relative calm in the Oromia region for around 2 months. More than a month ago, we saw statements from Oromia regional government and Oromo Liberation Army. Both parties expressed their willingness for dialogue. And then PM Abiy announced the start of this dialogue. Dialogue was held in Tanzania. For around 10 days, the two parties held discussions there. And during the dialogue, before the dialogue, we saw relative calm in Oromia. There was no large-scale fighting between OLA fighters and Ethiopian National Defense Force. The dialogue came to an end around a week ago. The two parties issued statements saying that they could not reach an agreement, but they were committed to the continuation of talks, and they were hopeful that the talks would continue. Then on Monday, yesterday, fighting erupted between Oromo Liberation Army and Ethiopian Army. OLA is accusing the government that government launched offensives on OLA positions in central Oromia in two zones. Oda Derby, OLA spokesperson, says that first offensive was launched by security forces, Ethiopian security forces in Washava, Geldo. And second one was launched in East Shava, in Adami, Tulo. OLA claims that dozens of Ethiopian army soldiers have been neutralized, quote unquote, in the two offensives in East and West Shava. And four soldiers have been captured by OLA. The soldiers were captured in East Shiva, in Adami, Tulu. And OLA has shared pictures of the captured soldiers. You can see the pictures on your screen. No response from the government so far. What happened there? Who started the fight? We're waiting for a government position so far. Can we say that peace process has collapsed totally? Difficult to say. We'll have to wait. But while talks were being held in Tanzania, the two parties were holding on to their positions in Oromia. There was relative ceasefire, relative calm there, but it's not that Ethiopian army withdrew from Oromia. No. Ethiopian army is still there in Oromia, and some sources before the start of talks close to OLA claimed that more reinforcements of Ethiopian National Defense Force, they were arriving in Oromia. So basically it was silencing of guns for the time being. Otherwise the two sides were holding on to their positions in Oromia. But this eruption of sudden fighting could be definitely a blow to the peace process. Ethiopian government must clarify what happened there, what happened in East Sheva and in West Sheva. West Sheva has been, there has been strong presence of OLF fighters in West Sheva. I think West Sheva shares border with Amhara, and East Sheva also shares border with Amhara. Who started the attack? OLA or Ethiopian government? Any involvement of players from other regions too or not? So that is what should be clarified by the government. But obviously, it's not a good news for the hopes of peaceful solution to the conflict in Oromia. Secondly, viewers, I want to share with you exclusive information that I got through some sources about the peace talks between the Oromo Liberation Army and Ethiopian government, which were held in Tanzania. We saw in Pretoria, South Africa, when peace talks were held, that US played a key role there. Though IGAD, African Union, were shown as main mediators, but it was mainly US, which convinced TPLF, which took TPLF members from Mekelle to Pretoria. So US played a key role in convincing the parties to sign the agreement in Pretoria. But in Oromia peace talks, another organization is involved, which is not backed by the US. How was Libyan internal conflict resolved? Center for Humanitarian Dialogue mediated. It mediated between LNA, GNA. Other players were involved too, and ultimately the parties reached an understanding, a deal. Center for Humanitarian Dialogue, also called HD, is a Geneva-based, Switzerland-based organization, non-profit organization, which is backed by international players, mainly European players. Norway and Switzerland funded the start of this organization. It started in 1999, I think. Since then, it has been mediating in armed conflicts, and it resolved some conflicts through mediation, through dialogue, through humanitarian operations, through discreet diplomacy. So it contacts other countries too. It talks to the parties to the conflict, and then it tries to bring the parties to the table and help them throughout the process. This organization has helped signing of peace deals in Indonesia, in Spain, in Libya. I think it's involved in Nigeria too. So it has long experience of dialogue, intervention, soft intervention in armed conflicts. This organization is involved in Tanzania peace talks between the Oromo Liberation Army and Ethiopian government. First round of talks has been concluded. Second round will be held hopefully in coming days. The HD has backing of EU, it has backing of Germany, UK, and some other countries, not US. US is not a major financer of HD. It's mainly an EU organization. So Europe is behind the organization, we can say, UN as well to some extent. So difference between Pretoria talks and Tanzania talks is that in Pretoria, US was the main player, but in Tanzania, EU seems to be the main player here. US could be involved as well in Tanzania, but main player is HD, Center for Humanitarian Dialogue. This organization claims to be independent. It says its board is independent. Its finances are audited by well-reputed organizations, and that its donors are working for a peaceful world. Who are the donors? As I said earlier, mainly European countries. And Norway has been involved in the resolution of a conflict in Oromia. If you remember, I think 2 to 3 months ago, I reported that Norway's diplomats were contacting Oromo Liberation Army and Ethiopian government for start of talks to resolve conflict in Oromia. And Norway is a key donor of this organization, humanitarian dialogue. Let's hope, let's pray that this effort by HD bears fruit and the two sides reach a deal in Tanzania. Second round has not been announced so far. Why? There are some very thorny issues unresolved between the two sides. OLA's demands are not just about ceasefire. OLA has raised some very key political issues too, for which Ethiopian government will have to involve other players too. Other regional players like OFC, Oromo Federalist Congress, they want to be involved in talks. OFC just 2 days ago expressed its desire to be part of talks in second round. So other players will have to be involved now for political discussions. That is what OLA wants. But yesterday's fighting in East and West Shiva is definitely a blow to this peace process. Thank you for watching.